All right. Yeah. So let's get started. So we have had a lot of members joining in this week, and I think some of them are on the call. So in this community, we have a tradition where newcomers get to introduce themselves on the call, so that we get to know each other better, and everyone in the community can get to know you. So. If you are new on this call, please introduce yourself. Uh, look, Rahul Balaji, would you like to start?
Hello everyone, I'm Rahul. I'm a student from India. I'm in my third year pursuing a degree in computer science. My goals are to learn more about Layer5 and to contribute to the community for now and then eventually appear for an internship. I look forward to working with each and every one of you and to learn more from all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahul. Nice to hear.
Welcome, Rahul. Sorry, I was just excited.
Purvi, I think you are new here. Would you like to go next? If you have audio problems, you can use the chat to introduce yourself. All right. Jared, did you get a chance to introduce?
I was introduced at the newcomers meeting yesterday, but I can do it again here. Okay. Hi, my name's Jared. I work at Nginx, Nginx Service Mesh. I primarily work on the automation framework for doing quality assurance of that. So I'm quite interested in the SMI conformance testing and the performance testing as well. Really excited to dig into that. I'm happy to be part of the community. Thank you.
Jared in the house. Good. Nice. Boy, I've got I don't have my voice, so I sound like well, I sound like a grumpy old man, I guess, but but anyway, excited that Jared's here. Excited that Rahul is here as well. It's nice to have, well, we don't have a record number of attendees today, but bring on, what are we at? Was it 36? Is that where we were at? So we're, invite your friends, I guess. It's been a while since we broke the record. But nice, good. I'll try to be quiet on the call so I don't sound like, so I don't spread the grump around, I guess.
Thank you, Jared. Claire Charles, I don't think you have introduced yourself. Would you like to introduce now? Claire, are you on?
Yep, we could just like barely hear you or something. Yeah, anyway, Navenda, you should continue. Claire, if you're there, you say hi. Else, let's go.
All right. If anyone else is new on the call and didn't get the chance to introduce, please do that on the chat. Moving on to the announcements, we have couple of graduating interns who just finished their Gsoc internship with CNCF and at Layer5. So congratulations to Piyush, Dhruv, and Soham. Uh, I bet like most of you guys are aware of the work they have been doing, and Piyush has written a blog on his experience interning here and interning through Gsoc. So check that out. And I would like to also add that we have a couple of internship programs, or we do internship programs through a couple of outlets. So uh, an upcoming one is the LFX. I guess we will announce the mentees next week. So if you want to do an internship, or if you are thinking of something like that, please check out the FAQs at this page. So congratulations, guys. And another topic is that KubeCon North America is approaching. So Layer5's two projects, Meshery and SMP, are in RCNCF sandbox projects. So we will be involving quite a bit there. So we will have what do they call it? Yeah, we have project office hours and all those stuff at KubeCon. So this is a call for volunteers to do some social media engagement and even speak at KubeCon. So speak at our virtual booth at KubeCon and all those stuff. Lee, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, if I can, I'll see how long my voice holds out, but there are a number of you who've been here for a really long time. And there's some of you who have just showed up today, maybe. And kind of some of that matters, how long you've been here, and some of that doesn't really matter. I'm not even sure why I mentioned it just now. I mentioned it to say that some of you have been here before the community had produced 2 CNCF projects, with a third project, Get Nighthawk, building out fairly quickly. Well, at this point, like, we have more, there's more to say and to show people about what has been done here than certainly I have time for. I'll say that I've said this any number of times, and I'll say this again, and that is that it is quite frequently that we're receiving requests to tell people about service meshes, or tell people about cloud native application networking, tell them about what we do here. And it's for my part, always been my desire that I get to shut my yapper, and other people are getting up on stage and talking. That's why so part of the reason why I always ask one of you to join me on stage, because it's not about, again, I'm being very selfish in this line of thought, but like, it's not about me. It's I don't need the stage time. Nobody needs to listen to me talk anymore. And so we've got 2 projects, which means we're going to perpetually have spots on stage, or and some of that is to have a virtual booth, to have recorded like materials about what you've done, about how SMI conformance works. For example, the fact that there are a couple of GitHub actions now, the fact that Meshery does that, the fact that SMP produced these results, the fact that Get Nighthawk is running optimization routines, or whatever's going on. So we're going to have a couple of virtual booths. Those are going to need to be staffed with folks that like to interact with other people. It's a virtual booth. So we're going to have office hours, usually where you're just welcoming people who are stopping by and telling them about the project, answering questions for both service mesh performance and for Meshery. Then we're also, and then we need to tell people about what you all are doing. and slap your name on the front of things, like Piyush just did. He just did, like, it was definitely more than 3 months of work that he did for Gsoc. I mean, he got a running start to that thing, which is exactly how people land internships around here. Is they show up, they just say, they help, they just say, yes, let me at it, I'll help, let me engage. They find a niche, they find a foothold on something, and they're encouraged to move as briskly as they can. And that's what happened in Piyush's case. And the point of calling him out is to say that he went and wrote up an article, a blog when he started, and a blog when he stopped. And he's certainly welcome to write any more. There's a lot to say about what he has done. His blog posts will stand as long as Layer5 IO is standing, which much like open source contributions, though they stand for all time, right? Until the repo is deleted or until the site goes down, which as long as I'm breathing, it probably isn't going to happen. You know, I'll have to hand it off to all of you and you can carry it forward. So the point is like, it's about Piyush. I mean, to me, this is about Piyush, not really about the stuff that we're doing. And that's the same thing about putting any of you on stage or in the virtual booth or in the office hours, or if you want to write an email that we need to send out to the 3,000 people who are signed up to the newsletter. We've got 3 Twitter handles. Again, no one wants to hear my corny jokes on Twitter. And so there's lots of engagement to do. These are your projects. Come represent. Bring good English, but come represent. Yeah, so if any of that stuff that I just mentioned is of interest, you know, ping a community manager or me or Navendu or any of the maintainers in Slack. And there's something to do. You know, there's KubeCon's a super busy time. DockerCon's usually a busy time for us as well. Yeah. It's not just that, we also chair the CNCF's Service Mesh Working Group. We also chair the CNCF's Technical Advisory Group for Networking. We have, some of us are CNCF ambassadors. Like, there's a lot of opportunity afforded to us collectively in that way to publish blogs on the cncf.io, to have webinars. We just had one. We can have as many of those as we like. Yeah, there's just ample opportunity. So if you're not doing any of those things, that's on you. That's because you're not signing up to do them. So, and never consider that from my part, I desire for all of you to go show off what you've done. Go be proud about it. Even if you barely done anything, even if you don't contribute code, that doesn't matter at all. It's not about code. Yeah. Anyway, I'm about to get on a soapbox now. I won't. So with that, just it's a good opportunity to get involved. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Lee. Please get in touch with the community managers interested in this. Let's move on to the first topic of the day. Barik, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Give me a moment. Yep. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep. It was worth it. It was worth it too.
Yeah, sure. So basically on the first topic, so I have made something called the name mapper. So basically earlier in our dashboard previously was the name of the service service mesh pods. It was in the original developer friendly kind of name, right? But what I'm doing here is basically map this name. So there is basically some hard-coded values, then send back a more friendly kind of like more general user name in some sense. So so this is only for the starters. Maybe so I saw that there might be a lot of space for contributions here because we cannot because yeah maybe you can have your own mesh and then start your own mesh and then saw that the name has not been mapped in our name mapper. So you can see on the source code basically. So this is the initial stage of the code name mapper. So what we are trying to do here basically just put all the bad codes, all the heavy work. Yeah, we'll just put it inside here. And yeah, for example, the Eastern Galley will be returned as Eastern Galley. And yeah, I mean you get the idea. Yeah, so this is the thing. And then yeah, so there is a lot of space for contributions basically. So if any of you guys have found anything that you can improve on from this mapper, just feel free to push a new pull request. Yeah. And then, so there is the first topic. And then the second topic will be the data planes. So earlier in our dashboard, we only show the user control planes. And then we didn't show the user the data planes. So in the service mesh, basically there are two components. There are the control planes and then the data planes. So data planes is managing how the communication between each pods corresponds to basically. And then so here what I'm doing is that so all the data is actually there already inside our mesh sync. And what we are trying to do here is basically just resurface some of the data that is inside the mesh sync into the measure UI. Yeah. So what I do here basically just add new column called data planes and then show the user that what is the number of data planes that is running on the pod basically. Yeah. So for example, there is still pilot. There is a one data planes. And then if you hover on the data planes value, you can see the details of the data planes. So here, the name of the data planes is still proxy, and then the status is ready, a result count, image, and then what ports it is using, and then resources that are used. So you can see that it is using how many amount of resources basically inside those data planes. And then if the data planes are not ready, it will show accordingly an error message something. So you can see that there are new an additional columns, which is called the last state. It is terminated, and then the error is 255. And then yeah, the last thing that it is running is at sometime basically finish at. So that's what I've been doing.
Who has feedback or comments for Barik?
I had a question about the first thing you demoed. So you said you're hard coding the mapping of the pod names. Doesn't this add a layer of overhead to maintenance should these names ever change?
Yep.
Would it be possible to parse out the names, define word splits like the dash here, and programmatically convert the this into the friendly names so that you don't have to hard code them for every mesh and every pod?
Yeah, so thank you, Jared, for the feedback. So I was thinking about that, but the thing is, there is actually a good suggestion, and maybe for that, we can do that in the default case. So for example, we have the mapping already, and then we can definitely do that in the default case. For why we do the mapping, I guess we just want to like just have a sense of reliability, I think, in terms of like what is this exactly, and then we can just hard code like what is that, yeah, accordingly. But definitely there is a good suggestion.
Drew, I don't know. Do you want to add any color to that with respect to service mesh performance spec?
So about that, I don't think it would specifically help for defining each pod like ingress or egress gateway. It might be helpful to generalize the mesh names if you like that, but that's not the use case over here.
Yeah, but it's worth noting. So I mean, like Jared points out, a really it's a great point, and it's one of the perpetual challenges of management software that, well, you know, like how do you provide a highly curated, like service mesh specific experience, and do so across like all these meshes without having a bunch of fragile code, a bunch of hard coded things. There's a balance in there somewhere. One of the things that's been done is inside of the service mesh performance specification is there's a proto that defines, that sort of sets the, well, standard is the wrong word, but it sets a common convention for what names to use for each service mesh, such that then any component in Meshry or elsewhere that's using that would have a common, you know, common moniker, a common way of identifying the name for that service mesh. In this case, this is about pods. And actually, like, if we can crack this nut, it would be fantastic. Like if you look at, and I'll just kind of play it through out loud as I were to potentially try to solve this. So if I'm looking at pod names and they're broken down like this, it's like, oh, hey, you know, these first few, or that first one with Istio Galley, it's like, look, why don't we capitalize the first letter on things? There are, you know, there's libraries for that. Okay, good. Why don't we split it on hyphen? Great. There's a, you know, like that seems pretty possible. Okay, and then there's a collection that fall into that category. Good. Okay, well then that just leaves us with, ooh, ingress gateway, egress gateway is like, if the G had been capitalized, that would be a way of, you could identify that programmatically and say, you know, insert white space there. But without it, like, okay, then how are you gonna, well, okay, maybe you can reduce the number of hard-coded things to just, if you see the word gateway, split it out, or if you see the word ingress, break it apart because it's its own, considered its own word. And it's like, okay, all right, and then, and you might be able to, and it might, the question becomes whether, which one's more fragile is kind of what it ends up coming down to. And yeah, you end up in this particular case having, yeah, an extra, well, this is not externalized, but this is a separate dedicated file to like tracking those names and capitalizations and things. It's like, okay, well then maybe just don't do it at all so that the code isn't fragile. And that could be a choice, and it would be, you know, on the, between like highly curated user experience versus like a totally agnostic tool, management tool. Yeah, is the thought process, is the like where yeah, anyway, I don't have an answer. It's just kind of playing it out loud. It's like, because if people can identify, and I'm not directing this at Jared, like, oh, you brought it up, so you have to have a solution. That's not the, but yeah. This is a great thing to call out. This makes some of us uncomfortable. I think it made Barak uncomfortable. It's like, oh, okay, well, so I don't know, like is another way of making, like, because what happens here is if you're going to display the content of a service mesh, you're saying, here's your control plane components, and somebody's looking and, you know, it's Istio 1.12 or something. And they're looking, they're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got a healthy Istio deployment. And they're like, yeah, but where's my pilot? Where's my pilot? Like, you know, it's pretty important. Like, it's not here in this widget. It's not in the dashboard, but I see it deployed in Kubernetes. Like, what? Oh, Meshree's got an issue. Like, what? Anyway, and it could be like, oh, because the language here. So Barak, that's one thing to confirm is like, if the language here doesn't match, like, let's say that pilot was renamed to captain or whatever, would we still expect that even though it would be like Istio-captain, is with the way that you're approaching this, would we see Istio an ugly name for Istio-captain?
Yeah, for that, if we didn't cover the case, then it will return to the original name.
Okay, so there's a catch-all that, like, okay, so at least, okay, that's good. That makes it slightly less fragile, right? Because what would be really a really wrong turn is like in trying to provide the right UX. If you didn't have the catch-all, then you'd be in a bad spot. Because so anyway, just thinking that through, because it's this is really. I know we just spent like 10 minutes on like a white space or whatever, but you know, it's what makes this, like, why someone would use a tool like Meshry, because it feels good and it feels nicer than using Istio-CTL or whatever the alternative is. And this is in part what makes it feel good. So, yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Lee.
Any other comments here before we move on? All right. Okay. So next up we have Suhani. Do you want to talk about the service mesh labs?
Yeah, sure. So it is about service mesh interactive labs. So we have interactive labs which have side-by-side instructions, which guides user on how we can use labs. And so right now we are improving the existing labs and creating the new ones. And many of you, like Meghna, Surya Shankar, Aditya, and Shantan had are contributing towards this one. So they are helping in improving the existing labs and creating the new ones. So there were some questions regarding how we can create labs. So there is a source mentioned in the docs. So yeah, so if you can see the Meshry adapters, so there are different scenarios. So you can see how they are written, and yeah, and you can see how it is in the UI part. So yeah, this will give you an idea how you can create your own adapters. So you just have to, it's like you just have to replace the existing adapter names, and there is much more, but it is more like that. And there was another question like what image we can use. So so all the images, all the supported images are available in the Katacoda docs. So yeah, these are the images. So right now we are using Minikube as an image, but we have to start it by ourselves. So if you can find an image which will start the Minikube, then that will be great. And next question was regarding how we can test the labs locally. So yeah, I'm still learning about this one, and I have used a long way for this. So there is a create author profile link in Eventu. If you can click on this one, yeah, create author profile on the top. Okay, so I have created my own profile to test the changes. So yeah, if you can find another way, then please do share in the Slack channel or in the community. So yeah, that's it from my side. Lee, you want to add something?
Yeah, we were going through this yesterday on the Meshery continuous integration meeting, the one that's held twice a week, or I'm sorry, once every 2 weeks. And, you know, and Surya Shankar was going through it and was stumbling upon random challenges, which seemed to be on Katakota's side of the house. But it had also been a longstanding ask of mine that we try to use an image that already has Kubernetes running. And I don't think we are yet. And I'm really hoping that someone can do that, to change it to Kubernetes cluster running. If we can try that image, that would be lovely. And so maybe that's the wrong image, but it's worth trying. I don't know that Minikube is the right image. Users that want, people that come and they want to learn, use the labs, they want to learn how this stuff works, they have to wait for Minikube to install. Why don't we just start with a running Kubernetes? So Suhani, does that make sense to you? Because I know we talked about it a few times, and so I like.
Yes, that does make sense. So we do want to use an image which have already Minikube running, and we don't have to start. So yeah, we have to find an image which will do so.
There it is, right there. I'm pointing it out. Kubernetes cluster running. That one. We should definitely try that. Just to the image ID is what gets used, and it's in the index.md, I think, in the labs. We should just make, like, and by the way, in order to test things, it might just be to make a copy of an existing lab, try out that image ID, see how it goes. But
this still requires us to start it manually when the scenario starts.
Okay, run launch when the scenario starts to ensure the cluster is running. Cool. Let's do run launch. You know, but like it should be further along. Anyway, you know, I don't know. I haven't run it, but what I do know is we haven't tried it, and people still have issues with Minikube running, and so yeah, who can try that? I think nice. Yeah, I'm excited about it. The labs are pretty neat. I think it's an easy way for people to, you know, learn that specific mesh. We're missing one for, well, we're missing like 5 for different service meshes. We're also missing, well, we're missing one. Well, we're missing a lot. Like there's a lot more to be written. There's open issues. If anyone wants to try these out, it's really about writing Markdown. I mean, like, yeah, to create a lab, it's not about writing code. So it's kind of nice. It's a good way to learn as well if you create a lab. But let me hear that name again for who's going to try out that image, because I swear I'm going to punch my display if we don't try out that image. I will show. Sorry, Mr. Das, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Nice. Thank you so much for that, Suhani. I put you on the spot as well with respect to like just even covering all this today. So that's wonderful. And Suhani is tracking a number of requests for new labs and things. So please chat with Suhani if you dig in. It's great.
Thank you, Suhani. So I have shared the links to the images in the chat, so you can check it out. Uh, for the next topic, Rudraksh or Lee, would you like to show the changes?
So actually, there aren't changes, but there is some discussion to happen on this and to explain the possibility of having a better UX here. I'll quickly share my screen to explain some of that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So a little background, just yesterday we were on a call with a person named Bala, and he has a pretty dope product and related to AI, and he wants to do heavy networking stuff with it. Currently, he's using Istio, and it's a little bit messy to manage all his services using that. So he's looking forward to using Meshery for doing that. And he reached us. He reached out to us asking for help on deploying Meshery on his EKS cluster. It was uh, quite a debugging session. So his setup was a Windows machine, and he used PowerShell. Also, he tried using a WSL2 for doing stuff. Basically, he told us that he went to this page, the getting started page, if you go here, Layer5 site, and there is all this, then there is this information about what platform you want to deploy Meshery on. And basically, this isn't much detailed about a distinction between operating system or platform. So he might have gone here. Okay, I'll take a look into how I can get it for Windows, or he might have gone into, I need to install it on EKS. So let me take a look at how I can do it on EKS. Oh, I need to get Meshery CTL first. So he must have seen other instructions on this. Now download and unzip Meshery CTL from the Meshery releases page. Okay, I did it, and it said Meshery CTL system start. So it should work and it should install. But there is a caveat that we need to keep in mind when we are installing on vendor Kubernetes cluster, that we have to set up the kubeconfig in a way that Meshery can detect it. And that is why we have this command. Now, the way this is designed, he ended up missing it somehow, and he wasn't aware about this. So this was a little bit surprising because it should be available in the place in the first place, and should make it easier to deploy stuff. He also said that I tried Helm, and with Helm this version was pretty old, so even Helm installation didn't work fine for him. So there are some changes that need to be done here as well as on this page. It's kind of a similar UX like this on this page as well. If you go here, okay, Windows user scoop, use scoop to do this. Meshery CTL, okay, I need to get Meshery CTL. Okay, I'll get it. Then I execute this, but I don't have because, oh yeah, I need to do this. So basically, the thing with this cluster was he needed to have some prerequisites before he could install Meshery. And that prerequisites might be missed by anyone. So we need to make a separate section out here to ensure that the prerequisite is fulfilled before the person installs Meshery. Now, this is a bit of odd because we have multiple ways of installing, and some of them directly install Meshery, like this bash script. They would take you and install Meshery for you without being aware about whether we are trying to install it on GKE or AWS, whatever. it tries to find your default config and install on it. So, oh, okay, that's a deal. I mean, should not happen. Other than that, we have brew users. Okay, again, you can do this. So basically, we should, I propose we should split this into prerequisite site, like specific to their operating system. They should be able to fetch mesh-rectl on it and accordingly deploy it on platform of their choice, whether it be any of these or, yeah. What else? So now more things can be added on this, and it's an open point of discussion. Lee, would you like to add more?
Yeah, it's not the simplest of things to do. So the goal is it's a one step. It's two steps. It's choose your platform. Step two is then manage your mesh. If you run the bash script, it's really pleasant. You will run the bash script. It will download the software, run the software, Meshry, connect to Kubernetes, and it'll auto pull up the UI for you as well, as long as you're not on a headless system, as long as you have a browser. Pretty neat. It's hopefully it's a delightful experience. That's a one-step thing. If we, and so yeah, this is something for all of you, because like all of you are on the call, you all have valid opinions as users, as readers of instructions, as people who run software. Simmer on that a little bit. It's like we got to try to keep it to one step. Give people choice. There is choice. One of the caveats, one of the something that's happening to people today is Rudraksh, if you were to visit like Windows. So if you're familiar with Scoop as a Windows user, you'll know that it's a package manager, just like Brew or apt or Yum, but it's for Windows. Great. You'd be familiar with it. You'd say, oh, that's convenient. Thank you. I'll do that. Or maybe you'd grab the binary directly. But what you might not read, I don't know. It's really tough to people, us humans, particularly myself, super lazy. Oh God, I don't want to read words. Oh, are you kidding with me? I don't want to type that stuff in either. I just want to click that copy to clipboard button. Like, and anyway, that happens to a lot of people. And so the challenge is this system of trade-offs again. It's like we can write a script that accounts for any platform you might deploy on. We'll figure that the script will figure it out. It'll do what it needs to do, which also means that if we do that, that's a lot to sustain and to and a lot more bugs to potentially happen. And so if you don't do that, if you don't give people choice and you say, well, the only way is to run a bash script and not these other ways, that might not fly. And so, yeah, something for all of you to simmer on a little bit. It is a challenging requirement to basically keep it to a single step. Now, granted, in this single step, there's a couple of lines, and that's fine. Still one step, you click the copy to clipboard, run it. So, so I don't think we can figure it out necessarily on the call, but it's something that Rudraksh wanted to bring up to everyone here because everybody's got an opinion. So yeah, as you think about it, please drop your comments into Slack or into the Discuss forum. Cool. Thank you, Rudraksh.
Thanks, Rudraksh. So the next topic is state management in Meshry UI. Nitish has a proposal to overhaul some of it. Nitish, would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. So basically, like one important aspect in creating a successful web app is how we maintain the state. So in that context, like in the current version of Mesh UI, the state is being managed by React mostly, which is okay. But if you want our app to be scalable, like we should have a more robust architecture. So we recently had put together a proposal which has been accepted and in the implementation stage right now. The link will be in the docs, or it will also be put in the chat as well, or in the Slack channel also. So if you guys want to know more about it, you can do so by going to the link and looking at what are the changes that will be made and those things. Yeah, and also like if you are interested in contributing to Mesh UI, then it would be helpful if you make yourself comfortable with the frameworks or libraries that are going to be used, because there are some new things that are going to be introduced, like Redux, Relay, and all those things. Yeah. So yeah, this is a major architectural change which would significantly improve the quality of Mesh UI, and it will also make it easier to maintain. So yeah, some interesting stuff going on with Mesh UI. Yeah, that's it from my side. Like, just wanted to let you guys know.
But thank you, Nish. Lee, were you able to say something?
I was just going to use this as an example to say that Nitish had suggested that maybe something should change here. So per usual, people said that good, make a proposal. He grabbed the template for design specs and started writing, and then people started commenting, and it's about a week and a half later now. I think it's about a week and a half ago. The document was empty. Now it's full, and now there's a massive change being planned for Meshri's UI in a much better way, a more sophisticated way. And so, yeah, if Nitish can do it, so can everybody else. No offense, Nitish. No offense, man.
Yeah.
Cool. So please get involved, because there's a lot to do specifically here. This doc, it weighs the pros and cons of a particular approach, identifies the fact that there is a need for state management, particularly across modules that are being used, components that are being used, and good. So this doc gets sort of set aside as a reference, and a new one needs to be written, which is what Nitish just said about an implementation spec and how to approach particulars of Redux and of Redux observable. So it's interesting. Also, I guess, Relay as a GraphQL client is also in there, and specifically Redux Thunk as well. So yeah, go chat up, Nitish.
Thank you, Nitish. So if you're interested in working on UI, get involved in this project. Tanuj, would you like to talk about the Meshri CLI blog?
Yeah, let me just share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, so we want to start posting many kinds of images and short videos about Meshri. One of them being, starting point being this image. So we need something to go along with this. So a small price to pay for anyone to get their name associated with this image forever is to write a small blog post about Meshri CLI. So if anyone is interested in that, please let us know. Yeah, that's it. Lee, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I am repeating the same thing Tanuj just said, and that is this graphic was just made and it's sitting idle in the community drive, unused, unloved. It doesn't have, it needs to be tweeted out, and it can be tweeted out, but it'd be a lot better if it was tweeted with a link to something interesting about Meshri CLI. And there's a lot of interesting things in there, actually. Some brand new commands that have never been talked about. And you know what? Some commands that you can't find anywhere else in the world. in the world. So if somebody writes a blog post, you'll get your name on the blog post, and you get to use this lovely piece of marketing, lovely graphic. Anyway, yeah, that's C to
If
news.
someone's there to help me out on any doubts that I have regarding Meshery CLI, I can write a blog.
We have a winner. Nice. Yeah.
I mean, I'm really new to this, but I'm willing to take a tryout on and see.
So Rahul, like there are you can find some docs in Meshery's docs. There is a CLI reference doc as well, and you can there is a Meshery CTL channel in Slack, so you can ping there as well if you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
All right. Was I on mute?
Yep. Sorry,
Okay.
I thought you were collecting your
Oh.
thoughts.
So Ashish, would you like to go next on the runtime component generation?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so currently in the whenever the Meshery adapter starts, there is this go routine which spins up this register capabilities, and it registers the OM pattern related capabilities like workloads and trait components to the Meshery server. So right, currently what it does is there are these static YAML files inside the templates directory inside the OM under workloads, and basically it uses these static workloads and sends these converts these into the ORDs and sends it to the Meshery server. So what I was working on is basically introducing this another function, register dynamic capabilities, or basically what it does is it fetches the latest version for whatever service mesh this adapter is. And based on that version, it basically fetches the manifest, generates the components on the fly, and then registers them onto the Meshery server, and does this after every some seconds or hours or whatever time we specify. Right now specified 1 hour. So I can just give it a little demo. So if I change the register capabilities with the register dynamic capabilities, right now I have my Meshery server running. So locally, whenever Meshery server spins up, there are some workload definitions already. These are registered locally. These are basically registered locally. So if I spin up the adapter right now, the adapter will dynamically okay, so registering latest workload components. It generates all the components and then it registers them with the Meshery server. So yeah, it's done. So if I reload this page, so as you can see, all of the components have been registered by the latest version, and I have done the exact same thing for the other 3 service meshes. The I've done basically in total for 4: Istio, Kuma, OSM, and Linkerd. I have a problem with Linkerd because they have very poor formatting of their Helm charts. There is no CRD directory and they're using partials and so on. So I have to figure that out. And for the other 3 adapters, there is no support for pattern components right now. So and currently it only registers the basically workloads and not traits, unlike the static function, because currently in the spec Utkarsh wrote, there is no basically he has mentioned about the traits, but right now we are not supporting them. So once we get to cross that bridge, I can incorporate that function here too. Other than that, one thing can be asked. I want to ask, I mean, this question, that should we register both the static should we spin up both these functions, register dynamic capabilities and register capabilities on the fly, or I mean, I'm not in favor of replacing the static thing, but I don't know. I mean, how the Meshery server is going to figure out if by some deep copy checks or what, that so that two copies of the same thing do not get registered, so that it does the updation and not the creation. So we'll have to figure those things out. Other than that, we can all, we can basically spin up two go routines, one for dynamic capabilities and one for static capabilities. Or if anyone has some other suggestions, we can do that as well. Otherwise, there is still work to be done here, and there is still things to be added in the mesh kit, because as I said, there is no such support for traits right now. So yep, that was it from me. If anyone has any other, before I stop sharing my screen, just one more small thing. I had written this spec for basically we were encountering this rate limiting issue, and I wrote this spec, and I too forgot about it. So I just remembered that I wrote a spec. So basically I'll share this link in the comments. We were hitting the API rate limit in GitHub. So to counter that, I was proposing to cache everything in a JSON file, and basically everything is written in this spec. I'll just share the link again and you can basically see it. So yep, that was it from me. If anyone has any suggestions or anything.
So people should definitely go review Ashish's design spec, which Ashish, that's related to a different spec on air-gapped deployments and getting, so I guess as a call to action for people that are on the phone, if you're, what's the right, well, I hesitate to say DevOps, but some of you have joined the community and have said like, hey, I would like to get more familiar with Docker and Kubernetes and like DevOps. And there are, and this is a good opportunity. The Service Mesh Labs that Suhani spoke to, that's a great opportunity for those that are into operations. This opportunity is another good one, and that is that there are a few users that have asked for instructions on how to deploy Meshery in an air-gapped environment. And we don't have all of those instructions written down. There's a few considerations that they need to take care of. And these users, to start with, it can be a really long list of like, here's all the things they have to do. Great, we just need that written down. Later, we can work on reducing the number, but so if you're into DevOps, there's a design spec in the community drive titled air-gapped something. Find it and start commenting, start getting in. Yeah, and so what Ashish was just showing is really related to that, because part of air-gapped considerations are things around caching. And so if you have, yeah, and so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ashish. Thanks, Lee. So the spec is in the chat, and you can find the other links in the community drive as well. So we are a little over time, and we have this one item remaining, which is related to Nighthawk or Meshery's Layer5's project, Get Nighthawk. So we have a couple of new projects that are opening up here. So if you'd like to know what Nighthawk is, and Nighthawk is basically a layer 7 load generator or performance testing tool developed by Envoy. And what Get Nighthawk is it's a layer 5 project that aims to make Nighthawk more accessible. So there are a couple of projects coming around it, one of which is gRPC support for Nighthawk. So this project, so basically the Nighthawk team has deprioritized this use case in Nighthawk. So they are willing to work with someone from our team and they will help us add this feature into Nighthawk. So that's one area, and you can find all these links in the meeting minutes. Another project is distributed load generation, which we'll use for distributed performance testing. So we are still waiting on a PR in Nighthawk to make sure that we can do this quite easily. So that is also one area. So another area is adaptive load control. So Nighthawk has this feature of called adaptive load control, which basically uh, creates load according to a feedback loop or according to your configuration of your mesh or your configuration. So basically what we are trying to do is use this feature in Meshery and possibly work towards building Meshpark as a benchmark for service meshes. So these are a couple of areas. So we'll be discussing more of this in the service mesh performance community meeting, which happens every other Thursday. So it will happen on next Thursday. So join that meeting to get involved in this project. I know many of you have already signaled their interest in working on this project. So you'll be working with C++ and Go. So if you are interested, please join the next week's call. Anyone else has anything to add before we wind up? And we are also planning for the next release. So we are writing a release blog. So if anyone else would like to volunteer for this as well, please signal. You can find an old release blog in the Meshery website or on the Layer5 website. So please signal that as well. All right. So anything else? All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. See you next week.
Thank you, Nimandu. Bye all.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Guys.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.